The dust of the Dominion capital swirled in lazy cyclones as Elias limped through the ruins, her radiation counter clicking steadily. The air tasted of melted steel and something darker, the ozone tang of ruptured singularity cores. Behind her, Private Vasquez coughed into his sleeve. All this power, he muttered, and they still died screaming. A shadow moved in the wreckage. Elias's pistol snapped up before her conscious mind registered the threat. The figure that emerged wasn't Dominion. Too tall, too still. Its obsidian carapace drank in the sunlight, the red sigils across its chest pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Captain, Cho's voice crackled in her earpiece. We're reading. I see it, Elias interrupted. The creature tilted its head, studying them with compound eyes that reflected 1,000 broken cities. When it spoke, its voice vibrated to their bones rather than the air. Asterisk, you have slain the jailers. Now meet the imprisoned. Asterisk. The ground trembled, not from explosions this time, from something vast stirring beneath their feet. Vasquez's hand shook as he activated his comm. Cho, we need immediate. The black shell being moved faster than anything organic should. One moment it stood 20 meters away. The next, its claw rested against Vasquez's chest plate. Asterisk, no reinforcements. Only witnesses. Asterisk. Elias fired 3 times. The plasma bolts vanished into the creature's carapace without effect. What are you? She demanded. The reason the Dominion feared your kind. Its mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Asterisk, they culled civilizations for millennia to keep us contained. And now you reckless, brilliant apes, have broken the locks. Asterisk. The tremor became a quake. Buildings that had survived the bombardment collapsed inward as something colossal began pushing upward from subterranean chambers older than human civilization. Elias's tactical display flooded with energy signatures, dwarfing anything the Dominion had ever deployed. Cho's voice cut through the chaos, strained but steady. Captain, long-range scanners show similar eruptions at every former Dominion stronghold. This wasn't their endgame. They were the wardens. The creature's laughter vibrated through their teeth. Asterisk, you thought this was victory? This was the overture. Asterisk had spread its arms as the earth split open behind it, revealing chasms where impossible geometries shifted in the dark. Now the real war begins. Elias ejected her plasma cartridge and slammed in a fresh one. The click echoed across the dead city. Then we'll fight that too. For the first time, the creature hesitated. Asterisk, why? You've won your survival. Asterisk. Vasquez answered by cocking his rifle, his voice steadier now. Because nobody gets to burn the galaxy, but us. Above them, the sky tore open, not with ships, with something older, hungrier. Elias's calm erupted with panic reports from orbit, but her eyes remained locked on the creature. You wanted witnesses? She bared her teeth in something too fierce to be a smile. Congratulations. You just made 8 billion more soldiers. The last thing the creature saw before the world dissolved into fire was Captain Elias charging forward, her battle cry lost in the thunder of the awakening dark. Section 5 end. Word count, 1,000 ***. Narrative elements delivered ***. 1. Introduces a true existential threat, the imprisoned species. 2. Reveals the Dominion's secret purpose as jailers. 3. Shows humanity's indefatigable spirit against impossible odds. 4. Ends on a climactic note that could conclude the story or launch a sequel. 5. Maintains consistent characterization, Elias's defiance, Vasquez's growth. Thematic closure ***. The story comes full circle. Humanity's victory over the Dominion becomes their next great challenge, proving their power isn't in winning battles but in never standing down. The final line echoes Section 2's 8 billion soldiers motif while raising the stakes exponentially. Would you like any tonal adjustments to better match the previous sections? I can increase the military sci-fi elements or emphasize more technological details, if preferred. The observation deck of the Starbreaker offer view that should have inspired awe, the swirling blue-green marble of Earth, its moon a pale sentinel beside it. Yet Admiral Vathane of the Galactic Dominion felt only disdain. Pathetic, he muttered, his mandibles clicking in derision. No orbital defenses. No fleet. Just noise. Behind him, First Scout Kirax shifted uncomfortably, her antennae twitching at cacophony of human transmissions flooding their comms. Songs, laughter, cries, all bleeding together into what the Dominion's linguists had labeled chaos with syntax. Their pre-FTL admiral, Kirax said, but their energy signatures suggest fission weaponry. Primitive, but nothing. Vathane turned, his carapace glinting under the ship's harsh light. A species that still fractures atoms for war is no threat. They'll kneel like the rest. His claws tapped a command into the holo display, summoning the planetary dossier. Images flickered. Humans crowded in cities, tearing at each other over scraps of paper currency, poisoning their own world. Look at them. They're animals with delusions of meaning. Kirax hesitated. The Dominion had encountered thousands of species, and arrogance had burned more than one conqueror. But protocol demanded obedience. The scout team is ready, she said. The landing craft tore through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, its shields deflecting re-entry with contemptuous ease. Inside, Commander Drell of the 3rd Pacification Battalion checked his plasma rifle. His 4 eyes narrowed in amusement. His second, young Trooper Nix, vibrated with eagerness. Think they'll fight? Nix asked. Drell snorted. They'll scream. Then they'll beg. The craft shuddered as it touched down in an open field, grass incinerating in neat concentric circles. The ramp lowered, revealing a line of human figures, armed, but their weapons were laughable. Chemical propellant rifles. Primitive. A human in a dark uniform stepped forward, her face bare, her stance tense but unyielding. This is sovereign territory of the United Nations, she called. Identify yourselves. Drell didn't bother with translation protocols. Let them hear Dominion standard and learn their place. By order of the Galactic Dominion, this world is annexed. Disarm. Submit. The humans exchanged glances. The woman, Asterisk Captain Elias Asterisk, her insignia red, frowned. Yeah, that's not happening. Drell sighed. Typical. He raised his rifle and fired. The plasma bolt should have vaporized her. Instead, it struck an energy shield, asterisk human-made asterisk, flaring bright before dissipating. Elias grinned, wild and fierce. Surprise? Chaos erupted. Human soldiers scattered, not in panic, but in practice formations. Their bullets couldn't penetrate Dominion armor, but they didn't need to. Improvised EMP charges detonated, frying Drell's squad systems. Nick screamed as a human slammed a crackling, jury-rigged plasma blade into his thorax. Drell stumbled back, firing blindly. This wasn't combat. This was predation. Humans moved like they'd been waiting for this moment for centuries. On the Starbreaker, Vathane watched the feed from Drell's helmet cam with growing fury. The humans weren't just resisting. They were adapting. Mid-battle. In real time. The last thing the feed captured was a human, Elias, standing over Drell's twitching body, her boot on his rifle. Tell your bosses this, she hissed. We don't surrender. Then static. Silence gripped the bridge. Kirax's voice was barely a whisper. Admiral, they learned our tech. From one engagement. Vathane's claws dug into the command console. This wasn't possible. This wasn't natural. Somewhere below, on that wretched planet, 8 billion humans looked to the sky and dared him. The Starbreaker S-bridge hummed with subdued tension, the air thick with the acrid scent of Dominion distress signals. Admiral Vathane stared at the holographic carnage replaying above the tactical table. His scout team's last moments, their plasma rifles sputtering against human ingenuity. Captain Elias's face, smeared with soot and defiance, lingered in the final frame before the feed dissolved into static. Kirax's antennae twitched as she parsed the data streams. Their shield technology was reverse engineered from our own emissions, she said, her voice tight. Not replicated. Asterisk improved star. They jury-rigged it in hours. Vathane's mandibles clenched. Then we erased them before they learned more. He turned to the fleet comm. All vessels target the human capital. Burn it to bedrock. The orbital strike on Geneva was meant to be a lesson. A single Dominion battleship, the Sunderclaw, unleashed its plasma lances in a surgical barrage. Towers of fire swallowed government districts, museums, hospitals. Centuries of human history vaporized in an instant. Vathane expected surrender. What he got was silence. Then, every surviving human transmission channel erupted with the same message, repeated in 100 languages, 1,000 voices. You just made 8 billion soldiers. Trooper Nix had been the first to die planetside. Lieutenant Drell's corpse was still cooling in the dirt. Now, aboard the Sunderclaw, Captain Rail found himself staring at the tactical scan, his secondary eyes blinking in disbelief. Admiral, the humans aren't fleeing. They're mobilizing. Vathane snarled. They're insects. Swat them. But insects didn't fight like this. Human stealth ships, retrofitted mining barges, their hulls coated in radar-absorbent slag, drifted into the Sunderclaw's blind spots. Their weapons weren't plasma or lasers, but brute-force kinetics. Tungsten rods fired from magnetic rails, slamming into Dominion shields with the force of small asteroids. The first volley cracked the Sunderclaw's energy matrix. The second breached its hull. Rail's last transmission was a scream cut short by explosive decompression. Kirax monitored the losses from the Starbreaker's command nexus, her carapace itching with dread. 6 ships lost, not in glorious battle, but at ambushes, sabotage, traps. Humans didn't fight fair. They lured Dominion patrols into asteroid fields rigged with fusion mines. They hacked drone swarms and turned them against their creators. They launched boarding pods, not at airlocks, but at engine vents, sacrificing entire crews just to plant a bomb in the reactor core. They're adapting, she whispered. Vathane slammed a claw into the holodable. They're animals. But animals didn't do this. A distress ping flashed. The dreadnought World Ripper, pride of the Dominion Armada, was under attack. Not by a fleet, by one ship, a mangled human cruiser. Its hull, held together by welds and desperation, rammed itself into the World Ripper's shield generator. The impact was a suicide run. The aftermath was worse. Human boarding parties flooded the breach. Not soldiers, engineers. They didn't shoot to kill. They shot to capture, dragging Dominion officers into makeshift interrogation chambers. When the World Ripper's comms finally went dark, its last transmission was a human voice, calm and cold. We're learning. Kirax accessed the salvage data from the World Ripper's logs. The humans hadn't just taken the ship. They'd studied it. Schematics, tactical algorithms, even Dominion language primers, all stolen, all disseminated across their fractured, quarreling nations in a heartbeat. She played back a captured human transmission. A grizzled officer, Elias, again, addressing a room of engineers, scientists, children. They think we're weak because we're not united, she said. But that's our strength. They have one way of war. We have 8 billion. Vathane's claws flexed. Ready the planet cracker. We'll end this. Kirax hesitated. Admiral, if we glass Earth, we lose all tactical data. Their adaptation rate. Doesn't matter, Vathane hissed. A dead species can't learn. But as a Starbreaker's superweapon charged, something flickered on the edge of the sensor grid. A ship. No, a fleet. Not Dominion. Human. And it wasn't running. It was coming. The Starbreaker's weapon arrays hummed with gathering energy, casting an eerie crimson glow across the bridge. Admiral Vathane watched the charging sequence with grim satisfaction. Soon, Earth's stubborn defiance would be reduced to molten slag. Then the proximity alarm shrieked. Admiral, Kirax's voice cut through the klaxons. 23 unknown vessels just warped in at point-blank range. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a ragtag armada of human ships, patched-together warships, retrofitted freighters, even decommissioned orbital defense platforms, all bristling with scavenged Dominion tech and jury-rigged weaponry. At their lead, a battle-scarred cruiser bore the freshly painted insignia of the UNS Retribution. Vathane's mandibles twitched in disbelief. They followed us. A transmission crackled through. Captain Elias's face appeared on screen, her uniform singed, her eyes blazing with cold fury. You don't get to run, she said. Not after Geneva. The human fleet moved like a swarm. No formation, no centralized command, just 100 independent strikes converging at once. The Starbreaker S-point defense system shredded the first wave, but the humans didn't care about losses. A crippled freighter, vending atmosphere, deliberately collided with the Dominion flagship's starboard thrusters. The impact sent tremors through the deck. Shields at 68%. Kirax reported. Vathane snarled. Fire the planet cracker. Target their homeworld. The weapon discharged, a searing beam of annihilation lancing toward Earth. For a heartbeat, victory seemed assured. Then the beam wavered, diffusing against a sudden lattice of energy shields. Kirax's breath caught. They just deployed planetary shielding. On screen, Elias smirked. Thanks for the schematics. The Starbreaker reeled. Human boarding pods latched onto its hull like parasites, their cutting torches breaching the armor plating. Inside, Dominion troops formed defensive perimeters, their plasma rifles trained on the breach points. They expected soldiers. Instead, they got madness. The first humans through the holes weren't Marines. They were engineers, hackers, even civilians, armed with stolen Dominion weapons and a terrifying familiarity with their enemy's tech. They fought not like an army, but like a hive of enraged hornets, each attacker improvising, adapting, thinking. A teenage girl in a scavenge enviro-suit rerouted the ship's gravity controls, sending entire squads tumbling into the ceiling. A grizzled mechanic overloaded a plasma conduit, turning a corridor into a furnace. Vathane retreated to bridge, his carapace scorched. Seal the doors. Activate the self-destruct. Kirax hesitated. Admiral, we still have crew in the... Asterisk, do it. Asterisk. The countdown began. 10 seconds. The doors exploded inward. Elias stepped through, flanked by 2 soldiers, one missing an arm, the other a teenager barely old enough to hold a rifle. She leveled a plasma pistol at Vathane's thorax. You don't get to die that easy. 5 seconds. Kirax lunged for the abort switch. Elias's shot took her in the shoulder, spinning her to the deck. 2, 1. Silence. The teenager, asterisk a child asterisk, Vathane realized with dawning horror, grinned. We disabled it 6 minutes ago. The Dominion fleet was in ruins. The few surviving ships fled, their transmissions screaming of monsters. On the Starbreaker S-bridge, Vathane knelt, his pride shattered. Elias loomed over him, her pistol unwavering. You thought power was fleets and superweapons, she said. But real power? She gestured to the viewport, where Earth, scarred unbroken, hung in the void, its refusing to stay beaten. Vathane had no retort. In the end, the Galactic Dominion's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology. It was underestimating human rage. The Dominion homeworld burned in silence. From the bridge of the captured Starbreaker, now renamed Phoenix, rising, Captain Elias watched the feed from the surface. Great plumes of smoke curling from the spires of the Imperial Citadel, where mere days ago, Vathane had commanded his fleets with cold certainty. The air smelled of ionized metal and blood. They're surrendering, murmured Lieutenant Cho, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. Every Dominion outpost in the sector is standing down. Elias didn't smile. Too late for that. The humans had done the impossible. They had turned the Dominion's own weapons against them, reverse-engineered their hyperdrives, cracked their encryption. They had taken the Starbreaker, the flagship of the Armada that had glassed Geneva, and made it their own. Now it led to counterattack. But this wasn't just a war anymore. This was a reckoning. On the surface, Vathane crawled to the ruins of his palace. His carapace cracked, his once pristine armor blackened by soot. The air stank of burning synth flesh and ozone. Around him, the last of his Imperial Guard lay in pieces, their plasma rifles still clutched in lifeless claws. He had thought humans fought like animals. He was wrong. Animals kill for survival. Humans kill for justice. A shadow fell over him. Elias stood at the shattered archway, her boots crunching on broken glass, her stolen Dominion pistol humming in her grip. Behind her, a dozen human soldiers fanned out, their weapons trained on the fallen admiral. You shouldn't have come here, Vathane spat, his voice modulator glitching. This isn't your world. Elias knelt, bringing herself eye level with his ruined visor. You made it ours when you burned Geneva. Cho's voice crackled in her earpiece. Captain, we're detecting a massive energy surge beneath the citadel. Some kind of... The ground trembled. Vathane's mandibles twitched in something like a smile. Did you really think we wouldn't have a final contingency? Elias stood abruptly. Cho, evac now. They've gotta... The world erupted in white. The Phoenix rising, S-shields flared as a shockwave hit. The sheer force of the underground detonation rattling the ship to its bones. On the view screen, the Dominion capital disappeared in a storm of fire and debris, the explosion rippling outward like a dying star. Elias! Cho shouted into the comm, Captain, do you read? Static. Then a cough, a curse, a weak but unmistakable laugh. Still here. Elias rasped, her voice raw with dust and adrenaline. Vathane's dead. Citadel's gone. But we're not done yet. Because in the ashes of the Dominion's heart, something worse was stirring, and humanity would be ready.